What if Iron Valiant was in Gen 1 OU? Now, I've gone over a lot of different fighting types in this series before. Some of them were pretty good, like Terrakion. Some of them, like Zombicenta, were okay. And I'm sure I'll be doing a lot of other fighting types in the future. And all of them, suffer from being a fighting type in Gen 1. No good fighting moves other than debatably low kick. And a lot of times you're just very weak specially and just get killed by psychic types. But here we have Iron Valiant, who is a fighting type, and for all intents and purposes, might as well be a pure fighting type. Because the fairy type does absolutely nothing in Gen 1. Like, think about it. There's no, dragons, really. And you're definitely not worried about Dragon Rage. And even if you were worried about Dragon Rage, it's a set damage move in Gen 1, meaning you wouldn't even be immune to it. You have, well, I guess, Low Kick from Iron Valiant, which is, the only relevant way the fairy type will come up. Otherwise, there's no Steel type, so it's only weak to Poison. And there's, no Poison moves either. So, yeah, it's basically just a fighting type that has insanely good attack, special attack, and speed. Yeah, this thing is a monster in Gen 9 OU, but I don't need to tell you about that. The question is, how good would it be in Gen 1 OU? Where, it's, doesn't have any abilities and no items. I'm gonna say it is now. Even more broken than it is in Gen 9. Which I know is crazy when there's no Terra. But I need you to keep in mind, while there's no Terra, what you have instead is no team preview. Which I don't think you guys realize just how broken that is for Pokemon like Iron Valiant. That's super fast and has really dangerous mix sets. Or can just use one of the other sets. With normal, Pokemon, you can see in the team preview what your opponent has. And you can, properly account for that. Meanwhile, here in Gen 1, you don't know what Pokemon they have until they send it out. So, let's say, your main counters towards Iron Valiant, which are probably, Alakazam or Eggy. Let's say, you're using those, but then, they get really worn down or paralyzed because of, your opponent's other Pokemon. Most of your Pokemon are in red or yellow HP, and then BAM! They tank out a full HP Iron Valiant. It might not have booster energy, but it's outspeeding and revenge killing everything anyways. And to make it even more dangerous, it's like Gen 3 Salamence, but on steroids, where you have absolutely no idea if you're in danger until you find out what moves that it has. And it has a wide variety of moves it can use. In fact, it might be the most versatile Pokemon I've gone over on the series, and maybe just the most versatile Pokemon as a whole. Easily the best move pool in Gen 1, out of everything I've gone over. And even when it comes to, other stuff, he might have a better move pool than Mewtwo. Okay, maybe that might be going a little too far, but it has everything you could ever want, really, other than just Earthquake exactly. And maybe Rock Slide. But even then, I would say those two moves wouldn't even be, that good. It doesn't make a huge difference. So, you already know those stats are just great. Even its defense is actually pretty good for what you would think would be a glass cannon. It's a 130 attack. It's the same as, I think it's the same as Rhydon? Or is Rhydon 135? It doesn't matter too much. It's 120 special attack. Also really amazing. And if we go with actual Gen 1, where it would have a special of 120, meaning that it can tank a lot of crap too, at that point, it would just be banned. There's no doubt about it. Just hitting everything, tanking stuff well, outspeeding. But luckily for Gen 1 custom games, it still uses its special defense, meaning that, at least for a lot of stuff like psychic moves, it will take a lot of damage, which is the one saving grace and the one thing keeping it from just being uncounterable. And that speed stat is quite frankly perfect, because it's exactly 1 point ahead of Starmie. which means that with your moves like Thunder Wave, Thunderbolt, and Hypnosis, you can. It pretty much like guarantees that you will always have, you know, like a better matchup against Starmie. It would still be could go either way because it's still Starmie. It can still paralyze you. Stab Psychic is really dangerous and could maybe even kill you with a crit. But you always have the advantage now, which you really appreciate. Also, just only Jolteon and Alakazam just outspeed you in general. You're just the third fastest Pokemon in the tier. And yeah, pretty much means you can just revenge kill anything. Or you can just be the most dangerous status setter. Because looking at its absolutely insane move pool, you have Agility, which could be used just to counter Paralysis. I don't think it should be used on most sets, but I do think if you want to catch your opponent off guard, it could be great. And just means that your opponent just has nothing else they can do against you. You have Fire Punch, which is just alright. You have like the other elemental punches too. Obviously, Ice Punch down here is a lot better. I don't think Fire Punch would ever be worth it. Light Screen could be worth experimenting with, especially since your only real weakness is against Psychic. So being able to take less damage from those could be nice. But at the same time, everything that can threaten you with Psychic, aka Alakazam or Starmie, has a really good chance of critting. So it's probably not worth it. Low Kick, on the other hand, is worth it. You're faster than every single normal type. And you have a chance to flinch, which is especially good for against like Chansey and Snorlax. Could also be good against Tauros, or just a lot of other Pokemon in general. You can pretty much do what Machamp wants to do, which is use Low Kick on how much a paralyzed Pokemon, but way better and hit like harder basically. So, like, whenever I do have a fighting type in this series, Low Kick almost always seems to like actually do good, which is kind of cool, not gonna lie. You have Psychic, which is just, you know, just a good move on its own. You mainly would use it for Gengar, though. Just taking advantage of Gengar's, you know, weakness of Psychic. But even if you don't have it, you can probably wear Gengar down with just your other special moves. But if you're using, like, any physical moves, like, let's say, Sword Stance, Low Kick, and Hyper Beam, Psychic probably does become mandatory. Otherwise, you have, like, no real way of hurting Gengar in the first place. Reflect, just a worse version of Psychic, really. You don't really need it. A Sword Stance, like I just mentioned. And even though it has a lot of special attack and a lot of good special moves, there's also no doubt about it that Sword Stance easily becomes, like, this thing's easily the strongest Sword Stance user in the game. It's just super fast, it has strong physical moves, it can outspeed. And funny enough, I'm pretty sure with the physical special split, they programmed it to where Fairy is physical. So you have Spirit Break, sure. But if you were to use Moonblast in Gen 1 OU, it would be a physical move. So just imagine a physical Moonblast with a small chance to lower the opponent's special. That's just insane and kind of hilarious. But obviously Iron Valiant doesn't need Fairy Stab. Not even like it would work in Gen 1 in the first place. Thunderbolt, as you would imagine, is just really damn good. Like, just your most consistent special move to use. Not to mention, it's what helps you, like, absolutely dominate the Slowbro matchup. And you have Thunder Wave. You're a fast Pokemon, you can paralyze a lot of stuff. Or something else you know you can't kill in time, you can paralyze it too. So just like, let's say, Tauros or like Alakazam. So no matter what, Iron Valiant can always, you know, like, get something done. Confuse Ray is funny. It's definitely funny. But it's just not really worth it. It has a lot of better things it can be doing. In my opinion, there's only one Pokemon that can legitimately take good use of Confuse Ray, and that's Lapras. Which I personally prefer to use Confuse Ray and Lapras. And I've seen a lot of success with it. But Iron Valiant has a lot of much better moves you can be using. But use it if you want, but only on teams where you're using Thunder Wave as well. A Hyper Beam, no surprise, just a good move on it. And Hypnosis is just terrifying. Because this thing is now the fastest sleep setter in the game. And it's also the fastest dual setter with, you know, Thunder Wave as well. And the crazy thing is, you don't even need to put Hypnosis. Even just an LR attacking set with, like, let's say, like, Sword Stance, a Low Kick, like Hyper Beam and Psychic. That's good. You can have, you know, Bolt Beam coverage with Thunderbolt and Ice Punch. You could have Thunder Wave, Hypnosis, or just one in the two. Iron Valiant can be whatever you want it to be in the tier. And the only thing holding it back is just that it has a bad defensive typing. Since it's basically just a pure fighting type that can resist Well Kick exactly. But that is well more than worth it. Because this thing can take on everything in the game with the right moveset. And you don't know what moveset it's going to have until it's too late. You won't even know if your opponent has Iron Valiant until it's too late. Now granted, with how good this thing is, and how hard it hits, and how fast it is, it would definitely be in the top 4, and it would be a mandatory Pokemon to always use. But then, if that's the case, like, how good would it be in the rankings? Would it be Chansey, Snorlax? I'm not sure if it would be a Tauros, like, as the number 1 most used Pokemon. But I wouldn't be, like, completely, like, shocked or flabbergasted if that did happen. But I am gonna lean towards, at the very least, being better than Chansey. And maybe Snorlax too? Who knows? You guys have to tell me in the comments below. And also, like, I don't remember most of the fighting tips I've done. But I'm pretty sure this one would be the most broken. Like, I thought Gallade was really good. And Gallade still is good, but this is just a whole other level. Not to mention, when I eventually do Mega Lopunny, and I will do Mega Lopunny eventually, will that be better than Iron Valiant? Or would Iron Valiant be better? Because yes, it's a normal in fighting stab, like, and it kills everything. But also, like, Iron Valiant has way more sets it can use. It can actually hit Gengar. So I don't know. You guys gotta let me know what you think. Now let's just get on to the replay, shall we? We got a lot of them, because there's a lot to go over with Iron Valiant. Luckily, a lot of these could go either way. And I think this one's a perfect example, where Iron Valiant, like, it can paralyze Tauros, and then Well Kick's really annoying. But then, like, it's still a Tauros. It can crit, it can also get paralysis with Body Slam. So it just becomes, like, extremely dangerous. So, it's not like Iron Valiant can just auto-win. Because of how frail it is, you still have to be very careful. Otherwise, you might just lose it. Which I do think is good. It definitely is nice knowing that it is skill-oriented. I don't know how to say the word. But, even if you don't use it optimally, though, you might be able to still win a lot of games with it. But it's definitely a Pokemon that your opponent's always going to have to account for. And even then, though, like, with Hypnosis, you can pretty much just auto-win any matchup. But that's why we have Sleep Claws. And that's also why I don't think Hypnosis will always be a mandatory move. Because you can also just, you know, have other Pokemon like Exeggutor, Jinx, or Gengar be your sweep setters. But there's no denying that it definitely would be useful. Especially with it having Sword Sense as well. Being able to just, you know, power up all of your attacks. Very dangerous. And I don't remember if I said it during the pre-analysis, but paralysis is also one of Iron Valiant's greatest weaknesses. Because not only does it absolutely hate no longer being the fastest thing in the game, but more importantly, it can't really afford to lose any free turns. Otherwise, that happens, where it suddenly gets put in red HP. But that's also why I think Agility could potentially be good, so that at the very least you can still outspeed everything. But the paralysis is still just yikes. It's still a great matchup against Chansey though. Like, don't get it twisted, because even though Iron Valiant got really lucky or unlucky there, Low Kick still has a 30% chance to flinch, so Chansey just doesn't risk it at all. And I think Alakazam actually might just be unwinnable, because look at that. Even if it's super fast, it still just dies no matter what. You could only really kill it with a critical Hyper Beam. But Alakazam itself can just very easily crit. So I just don't see any way Iron Valiant like comes out as a winner. Alakazam will just always be in the better, position. And can just, destroy Iron Valiant. And since it's faster, even Hypnosis isn't actually like a good answer for it, because you're probably just gonna die anyways. Same with Explosion. This might surprise you, but Explosion kind of hurts a lot. I'm not sure if the crit mattered there. I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't. But like, what else does Corsair really do to Iron Valiant? Nothing really. It can only explode exactly because of how fast Iron Valiant is, and with Thunderbolt. And the other Pokemon that can set up to Iron Valiant, Executor, because Hypnosis is very annoying, but not only is it inaccurate, but outside of like Sword Stance and like Hyper Beam, Iron Valiant doesn't have any real way of really hurting Executor. It has Ice Punch, but Ice Punch is kind of weak, especially for a Pokemon with high special like Executor. So it might not even be worth it. So yeah, like just with Alakazam, it can put up a good fight. And Gengar can potentially put up a good fight, because if Iron Valiant misses the Hypnosis, and if Gengar gets his own Hypnosis off, that can hurt. But Gengar also has super effective Psychic coverage, as well as just Explosion. So, like, it's most of the time more so in Iron Valiant's favor. But Gengar can definitely, put a lot of work in, or even KO the Iron Valiant if it gets lucky. And considering, how inconsistent Hypnosis is, you might not even risk it on Gengar. Meanwhile, with Jolteon, both are fast, both probably just paralyze each other. But Jolteon can hit hard and can take advantage of, crits better than Iron Valiant. So it's a could go either way, but one where I would ever so slightly put in Jolteon's favor. Because it doesn't need to set up a Sword Stance or hit some very powerful moves. It just needs to paralyze and then just spam Thunderbolt until it wins. And then Jinx. I put this in could go either way, because Lovely Kiss is more consistent. I'm pretty sure Hyper Beam doesn't kill without a crit. So Iron Valiant is just terrified of being put to sleep, and then immediately getting hit with a powerful Psychic afterwards. Not to mention a critical hit from Jinx, which is fairly decent, a chance of getting a crit. That also just OHKOs. And then with Rhydon. Now I was curious to see how much Well Kick did. Yeah. You would need a Sword Stance in order to 2-hit KO it. Which, could happen. Ice Punch, can also do decent damage. But I think these replays kind of convinced me that Ice Punch isn't worth it. It just doesn't hit that hard on, Executor or, as you'll see later on, Zapdos. So, Bolt Beam coverage, you could use it on Iron Valiant if you want, but it's not that great. Thunderbolt, on the other hand, is. And being able to put Swellbolt to sleep is not only, viable, but it's hilarious. You should do it. Or just get a crit with Thunderbolt. It's funny. But you probably should just go for Hypnosis because you're really scared of being paralyzed. And then with Starmie, like I said, you're exactly 1 point faster. So that while Psychic and Thunder Wave could be a big threat to you, you also can just do exactly what you see here. There's not much to really say. Starmie could go either way, because bad things can happen to your Iron Valiant. It can miss, or you don't have Hypnosis and have Thunder Wave. So Starmie can absolutely put up a better fight. And if both of you are paralyzed, I would say at that point it probably does go in Starmie's favor, because then Starmie can eventually just recover and just try to stall out for you to get really bad paralysis luck. We got Zapdos, and even though Iron Valiant got some good sleep luck here, I would also say that Zapdos is probably a could go either way. Paralysis is annoying. Unless you get its Sword Stance up, it doesn't have a lot of moves that do a lot of damage to you, other than getting lucky with a crit on Ice Punch. So I'd imagine Drill Peck would just be a huge threat to you, and maybe even Thunderbolt. But, it's not the greatest counter to Iron Valiant. This is, however, because unfortunately, that Fairy type does come back to bite it, which is sad to say. But against Muck, there's just nothing Iron Valiant can do. With a super effective Sludge, it's the most powerful poison type move in the game. It can hit Iron Valiant super effectively, and Low Kick and Hyper Beam just don't do it much, or don't do that much. So yes, Muck's 65 base power Sludge is a 3-hit KO unless you get a damage range, and then it would be a 2-hit KO, and that is insane. There is no doubt in my mind that Muck would become part of the top 3 in Gen 1 OU because of just how strong his Sludge is against Iron Valiant. I know, folks. I'm surprised too. So here is the tier list. Almost all of these could go either way, but also keep in mind, you're not using your Iron Valiant as a shitty lead. It is going to be a revenge killer. So pretty much everything, even its worst counters, minus Muck, which is just unwinnable no matter what. Everything it does, it'll always probably just be revenge killing something. So everything could more so be put in great matchups if you really wanted it to. It would just be a monster, and it's definitely one of the most overpowered Pokemon I've gone over in the series. Metagross is probably more OP, it would probably be more dominant, just because Psychic Steel is just, quite frankly, the best typing you could ever give something in Gen 1. The only thing else it could possibly want is just an Ice immunity. But, yeah, Iron Valiant, it's crazy. You can vote for this for the Generation Jumble if you want, but I probably won't include it because it is just so overpowered, and I would still want at least the first generation or the first season of Generation Jumble to still feel like you're playing Gen 1 OU. But there's other Pokemon you can vote for, and earlier today I made a video, which is, it doesn't go into that much detail, it's mostly just a quick summary for the Generation Jumble is. And then, I highly encourage you guys to just go on that video and just ask as many questions as you can. Because in a few days, most likely on Friday, I will make a video going more into detail on the Generation Jumble. And just explaining everything about it. And then the Generation Jumble will start on Saturday. So hope you guys are there for that. Make sure to join the Discord so you can actually participate in the Generation Jumble. It'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a good way to, have you guys, prove to me if my videos are right, or if, a lot of the predictions I made were wrong. Thank you all for watching. Until next time, this is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.